I'm Tiffany. Standing in my penthouse, watching the rain streak down the windows, I recall the moment everything changed. It was a Friday evening, the kind of rain that blurred the skyline and made the whole city hum. The doorbell rang, and through the glass, I saw umbrellas, formal coats, and the familiar faces of my family, already set in scorn. My family comes from an old money background. My father, Mr. Thompson, is a well-known businessman in the city. He's a man of strict rules and high expectations, always believing that family hierarchy and tradition should be strictly followed. My mother, Mrs. Thompson, is a socialite who spends her days attending galas and charity events. She has a way of speaking sweetly while manipulating those around her. My younger brother Ethan is 25 years old. He's been the golden child of the family, always getting away with his mistakes and being showered with praise for his half-baked ideas. I've always been the odd one out. I'm a senior software engineer, building my career from scratch. I have no trust fund or family connections to rely on. It's been just me, my code, and an unwavering determination. While Ethan was constantly starting and failing in various business ventures, my parents were quick to bail him out, wiring him large sums of money and covering his debts. Meanwhile, I was working double shifts just to pay my rent. Whenever I complained about the long hours and financial stress, my father would say, "Hard work builds character." As if enduring all that pain was the same as receiving love. I left home at 22, vowing never to ask for their help again. For years, I lived in a tiny studio apartment with thin walls. I would type away at my keyboard until my fingers cramped and survive on instant noodles. In the meantime, Ethan was posting pictures of his luxurious vacations on social media. When I finally managed to buy my penthouse, it was the result of countless sleepless nights and hard work. But my parents barely showed any excitement. My father simply commented, "It's too big for one person." Little did I know, that was just the beginning of their plans. Ethan announced his engagement to Lily, a beautiful but materialistic woman. She had a knack for sizing up the value of things at a glance. I thought that maybe this time, I would finally be seen as an equal in the family. I attended the wedding, smiled for the photos, and even gave a toast. The wedding was a grand affair, with chandeliers, champagne towers, and a hired orchestra. It seemed like the family name was shining again. I remember standing near the dance floor, holding my glass, trying to ignore my father's calculating gaze from across the room. Then he stood up, raised his glass, and in a booming voice, he said, "Tiffany, hand over your penthouse to your brother." It was supposed to be a wedding toast, but the ballroom fell silent. Before I could react, his hand came down hard on my face. The string quartet missed a note, and 200 guests watched in shock as the champagne seemed to freeze in mid-air and my cheek burned red. My mother leaned in and whispered, "You've shamed us." But I just smiled, calm and certain. They didn't realize that they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. The next morning, my cheeks still throbbed, and the faint outline of my father's hand was like a brand I couldn't wash off. The city outside went on as usual, but something inside me had shifted. My phone was constantly buzzing with messages from relatives. Each one carried the same tone of disappointment disguised as concern. "You shouldn't have provoked him. He's your father, Tiffany. Be the bigger person." Not one of them mentioned the slap, and not one asked if I was okay. Then Ethan texted, "You've ruined everything. Lily's furious. Mom says you owe Dad an apology." I stared at the screen, the words blurring. I blocked his number. For a few days, there was silence. But on Thursday morning, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find Ethan and Lily standing there. Lily was wearing designer jeans and holding a measuring tape, while Ethan had a coffee in his hand and that same smug smile. "We just need a few quick measurements," he said. "For what?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Our furniture," Lily replied, stepping forward. "We're moving in after the honeymoon. Mom said you'd agreed." I let out a short, sharp laugh. Get out. Don't make this harder than it has to be, Ethan said. You're single. You don't need all this space. I was filled with more anger than I'd felt from the slap. You need to leave now, I said and closed the door. By evening, I received a notification about a new group chat called Tiffany's Penthouse Transfer. There were 12 members in it. The first message was a photo of paint swatches, and the second, from my mother, confirmed that Ethan and Lily would be moving in 2 weeks. I typed, "This isn't happening." Seconds later, my father called. His voice roared through the speaker, "You ungrateful brat, after everything we've done for you." Like what? I asked quietly. He didn't answer and just hung up. That night, I sat in the dark, sipping water and watching the city lights. I thought about all the times I'd given in to their demands, all the guilt trips I'd endured, and all the times I'd mistaken their manipulation for love. I realized that they didn't want a daughter, they wanted someone they could control. The next Sunday, out of habit or curiosity, I went to the family dinner. The house smelled the same as always, a mix of expensive perfumes and a sense of control. My mother greeted me as if nothing had happened, but my father waited until halfway through the meal. He slammed his hand on the table and barked, "Enough. Ethan gets your keys next weekend, or you're out of this family." My mother nodded and said, "It's for the best." Ethan smirked. I calmly folded my napkin, placed it on the table, and stood up. Then consider this dinner my last. No one stopped me as I walked out. That night, I couldn't sleep. The events of the past few days kept replaying in my mind. But by dawn, my anger turned into focus. I called my best friend and attorney, Mia. "It's time," I said. "Time for what?" she asked. "For me to stop being the quiet daughter." By noon, we were in her office. I laid out my phone, laptop, and a USB drive filled with messages, screenshots, and voicemails of all the insults and demands they'd made. Mia scrolled through, her face hardening. "This is harassment. You have enough for a restraining order," she said. "Not yet," I replied. "But I will." I then called Jake, my closest ally at work. We met at a small cafe downtown. The air smelled of rain and espresso. "You were right," he said before I even sat down. "Ethan is bragging at the office. He told HR he's moving into your place and has been using your name to get a promotion." I was furious. Jake also told me that Ethan had no idea I owned 30% of the company he worked for through my holding company. "Good," I said. "Let him keep talking." The next day, I contacted Mr. Harris, the head of security in my building. He owed me a favor. Within hours, he sent me footage of Ethan and Lily trying to enter my penthouse while I was out. Lily even took a selfie by the door, tagging it as their future home. When I showed Mia, she almost laughed. "They're making your case for you," she said. "Exactly," I replied. "I'm done reacting. It's my turn to move first." That night, I created 3 folders on my computer: legal, financial, and evidence. I filled them with recordings, letters, screenshots, and bank transfers. Every lie they told became evidence, and every guilt trip became a weapon. By Friday, Mia had drafted cease and desist papers and a preliminary restraining order. Jake pulled financial records showing that I'd covered loans my father never repaid. When Mia asked what was next, I didn't hesitate. "Invite them here. All of them. They want a family meeting, they'll get one." She raised her eyebrows. "Are you sure you're ready for that?" "I've been ready my whole life," I replied. "And now, as they stand in my penthouse, I'm ready to show them the truth." I open the door and let them in. My father looks around and says, "You've done well for yourself. Now it's time to do right by your family." Funny, I say, I thought right and wrong were the same for everyone. I gesture towards the dining area where Mia, Jake, my financial advisor, and Mr. Harris are waiting. The atmosphere changes. My father's smile disappears. "What is this family meeting?" he asks. "You wanted one," I reply. My mother tries to sweet-talk me. "Tiffany, we didn't mean for things to get ugly. Just sign the transfer papers so we can move forward." I hand her a blue folder. "Start by reading this." They open it to find pages of ownership documents, deeds, and corporate filings. My father frowns. "What is this nonsense?" "Proof," I say evenly, "that this isn't just my penthouse. I own the building and 30% of the company Ethan works for." Ethan freezes, his expression changing from arrogance to panic. "You're lying," he says. Jake steps forward. "Not lying. Confirmed through SEC filings and HR records. She's your boss's boss." The color drains from Ethan's face. My father's fists tighten. "You think this scares me?" Mia presses play on her phone, and the room fills with my father's shouting and threats, and my mother's cold commands. "This recording is already filed with the court, along with a restraining order," Mia says. My mother's lips tremble. "You wouldn't do that to your own family." "You did it to yourselves," I answer. Ethan lunges forward, his face twisted. "You think you're better than us?" Mr. Harris steps in front of me. "Sir, I'd suggest you leave." I look at my father. "You called me ungrateful, but I paid your mortgage, your debts, and Ethan's tuition. You drained me dry and still called it love." He swallows hard. "We're family." "No," I say quietly. "We're a pattern I just broke." I open the door. "You'll all leave now. If you contact me again, everything in those folders becomes public. Ethan, your company will know the full story. Mom, your friends will know what you did. Dad, your reputation will be destroyed." One by one, they walk out into the rain. Lily lingers at the door. "I didn't know." "I'm sorry," she whispers. I nod. Then start being different. When the elevator doors close, I stand still, listening to the thunder. Mia touches my arm. "You okay?" "I'm finally fine," I say. The next morning, the city looks clean and new. I wake up to sunlight and quiet. My phone lies face down on the counter, free from calls, guilt, and manipulation. Mia calls around noon. Restraining orders approved. They can't come near you or contact you again. I let out a long breath. Then I guess it's finally over. "It's over," she confirms. News spreads fast. By mid-week, Ethan is terminated from his job. Jake texts me, he's out for good. My parents stay silent, but their absence is a relief. I spend that evening boxing up the last remnants of them, old photos, inherited trinkets, and the illusion that I needed their approval. When the boxes are sealed, my apartment feels bigger and brighter. A week later, I sign documents to create a scholarship for women in tech without family support. It's not charity, it's closure. Turning my pain into something positive feels like the only justice that matters. As I stand by the window with a cup of coffee, watching the skyline, I realize that I don't need their validation anymore. The city is alive and new, and so am I. I used to think family meant loyalty at any cost, but now I know that real loyalty respects your boundaries. I didn't lose a family, I lost a prison of guilt. Every sunrise reminds me that peace is earned, not given. If you've ever had to stand alone against those who are supposed to love you, know that you're not weak for walking away. You're brave for saving yourself. Hit like, share your story in the comments, and subscribe for more like this.